And what I want to talk to you about today is the ability to excel. Now, how do you excel? How does a person go from one level to another level? And I've been able to evaluate this over quite some time. There's some scenarios I'm going to just toss out and I'm going to throw out, and I'm going to just kind of give you a principle, and then we're going to just drill in and figure out how it works, why it works, and why it doesn't work. And I want to talk to you first of all, just in this framework of copycat, being a copycat. It's almost in a sense top down that you would be a copycat. Why are you copying me? Stop being a copycat. Stop being a copycat. We learned it all in junior high, elementary school, and whatever. But ultimately, if you look at a clique, if you look at a gathering, if you look at a tribe, they all have the same kind of, they have the same kind of dress, they have the same kind of talk, they have the same kind of posture, they have the same kind of walk. And that's not necessarily based upon copy, but it's based upon psychology. And it's based upon the same feeling or the same emotion, the same branding, the same air about them. They like this. There's something about it. So if you back in the day were grunge, there was something about grunge that you really liked. You liked it, how it made you feel. You had this expression that was a part of you. And so you need to understand that these things are not copycat, but they're psychology. So why does a person choose to copycat? Is because they like something about the way you think, the way you feel, the way you are, and they want to glean from that. We actually, in modern day, we don't call it copycat. We say more things are caught than taught. And that's what the reality is of copying something. Is you're trying to catch something. You're trying to say, okay, I like that, so I'm going to get around that. I'm going to study that. I'm going to pay attention to it. And you're going to catch something more than you are going to sit down and read a book and just be taught something. Because even when you read a book, and I'm not saying don't read every day, because you do catch psychology dripping through the book, a person's mindset. But you can also just have this power of excellence that just takes over. And I was thinking about this recently in because of two things. One, because of music, and two, because of art. And those are two worlds that are very, very important to me, music and art. And so I remember years ago, we have a drummer in our community, and this drummer is he's a pro level drummer, and he's just, he doesn't live in Seattle anymore. He lives down in California. But I remember when he was playing, we had a young man that was coming up in this community, in our community, and he also wanted to just really excel in drumming. And I remember in the beginning, he had just a good rhythm, just a good ability to stick in, but he needed some copycatting. So he needed some coaching. He needed someone that would say, come on, this is what you need to do. And I remember there was a point where he was kind of like paying attention to this professional drummer so much that there was rhythms, and there was riffs, and there was things that he was doing that was exactly, it caused him to excel so quickly in his skill, and his drumming and his skill went so fast because he was copycat. And I'm going to break that down to a better word, but I want to use that word copycat for a second, that term copycat, because sometimes we don't want to be a copycat, but in order to take your skill level from here to here, you may have to copy, because you learn so fast when you copy. And I'm going to use a different word, so don't get stuck on that word, but when you copy, when you say, I want to know exactly how they did that and what they did there, and what did they do that? Now, the difference between copy and this second word that I want to throw in there is emulate. Copy literally means I want to do it exactly. I want to find the pattern. And I don't actually need to know the emotion. I don't need to know the feeling. I don't need to know the psychology. I don't need to know their rhythm. I don't need to know, I'm talking about their internal rhythm, because everyone has an internal rhythm. I don't need to actually catch anything. I just need to be taught something. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I need to just be taught something. And then a student who stays in that copy doesn't actually kick in the excel. They may actually develop their skill sets quicker, because that's the reason your teacher teaches you to copy. And that's the reason your teacher says, do it like this, is for the sake of getting you there quicker, to a level of excelling quicker. And so there's this movement of originality, and I'm totally about it. This book that I'm writing is completely about experimentation, or experimenting with your success. But I realized in this, in studying everyone that was successful, there was a season of emulating. There was a season of copying. They would say, I was inspired by, or they would say, my mentor is, or I learned from. Almost every success person, every person who's successful has someone that they learned the initial foundational skill set and didn't have to think about figuring it out, but went so fast from 0 to 100 in 60 seconds so that they could actually get to this point and say, okay, now that I'm here, now that I have the base down, now that I have this down, I can really begin to add in some of my own flair and some of my own style and some of my own attention, some of the things that I think are cool. And this would sound cool if I did this. Well, you can't do that if you don't know the fundamentals, if you don't know the foundations, if you don't know the initial psychology behind it, the emotion behind it, the feeling, the rhythm, the way it feels in your body and the way it feels in your mind. That's why most people don't get to success, is because they don't actually give themselves to a copy season where they're just saying, that's what you're doing, that's what I'm doing. That's what you're doing, that's what I'm doing. Hey, you know what? Let me go pick up this magazine and find out what Success Magazine says this person is doing. Oh, let me go over here to this YouTube and find out what they're doing. There's a season of that because it takes you from one level to another level that fast. The problem is people are getting stuck there because what they really want is they want to be a millionaire like that person. They don't want to have the psychology of that person. They don't want to have the skill set of that person. They don't want to have the thing that brought them there and what's going to take them to the next level. They don't want that. They literally just want the trophy. And if you get stuck in trophy hunting and trophy chasing, you will find out the rhythm. You'll be a great copier of someone else's principles, but you won't know their psychology. And if you don't know the psychology, you'll never know how they got there, why they're there, and how they're going to go to the next level, or how you can go to the next level. So you have to understand why and how a person thinks and why a person feels the way that they feel about what they're doing. So when you go into a new environment, a new culture, don't go into a job or into a new business with a I'm going to shift and change everything immediately. Understand why they do what they do, understand the psychology of it, understand the breakthroughs that it brought, so that you'll know what to get rid of and what not to get rid of. If you just go in and start getting rid of everything, you will have uprooted some really powerful things that should be there that you can't get rid of. There's people throwing away foundational and fundamental success, and they are actually maybe having success in finances or success in money or success in the organization, but they're losing success with their family, and they're losing success in their emotions and their bodies. People having nervous breakdown, people that are losing their wives, and people that are losing their husbands because they are taking this, oh, this is what this person does, you know what? And they never actually look at that mentor and go, okay, but what's their marriage like? What's their family like? What's their health like? Are they completely just overridden with stress that they're sick all the time? They may be successful on the outside. They drive the car you want. They live in the neighborhood you want. They actually have the income you want. And you copy that, but they're miserable people on the inside. Can I tell you, it's better to understand their psychology and take a few principles from that and then say, okay, that's great. You brought me here. Now I've got to jump off. It's like that. It's like, watching the Greatest Showman and the trapeze artist. You have to have a place where you know when to catch and you know when to let go. And so if you're swinging with someone, you need to if you're following someone's life and someone's style, you need to know when to let go of what they're doing and grab a hold of some part of originality. So I want to say, if you're chasing originality in your achievement, your success, your drive, your focus, I want you to really pay attention that you're going to chase originality by first establishing a fundamental understanding of emulation. Emulation means I'm going to equal or surpass that person. So it almost feels like copying in the beginning. So I'm going to, okay, this is what they're doing, but my goal is not to copy them. My goal is not to look just like them. My goal is not to have their mannerism. My goal is not to have their personality. My goal is literally to emulate to a point of being able to catch what I need and then swing to that next place. So it's important that you understand that emulation is different than copy. Copy means I just want to do exactly what they did. Now, taking us to the next. We talked about music. Now we're talking a little bit about art. My son and his friend, my son Tristan, Samuel Armstrong, you can find him on Instagram. And also, I don't think Michael Samanja, he has I don't know if he has an Instagram, but they have a business, it's an art school called Tava. And you can find it by, it's TAOVA.org. And it's really amazing. And they also have a Tava Instagram. But it's incredible because they're teaching people the power of art. People who walk in who have no art ability, they have no skill set, they've never seen themselves as an artist, but they want to catch something. So they spend a couple hours, 4 or 5 hours a week with a person. I don't know how many hours, but they spend some time. They introduce them to art. They introduce them to the psychology of art. They introduce them to it. And so I asked them, I said, so how much of what you do in training and teaching and developing a person is into being an artist, how much of it is actually copy or emulation? He says so much of it. It says when you first learn, you first learn to copy, and they don't call it copying. They don't even call it emulation. They call it studying. You study the master, you study the artist, you study this artist, you study their strokes, you study. And I want you to understand that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about studying. When you study not only what they wrote, but you study them, there is more, literally more, that is in a person's delivery. Thank you for putting that up, Miles, Smiles. Thank you for putting that up there, Maggie. Appreciate it. You need to be able to have in your life an understanding that I need to study someone who has mastered this already. Once I get to that place, then I can start to bring in this idea. This would be cool if I added this. This would be great if I added this. This would be wonderful if I added this. And you start to add components to what you've learned through study, what you've learned through emulation. I want us to really be aware, or be aware is a better word, of just trying to peruse all of these. There's so many people just perusing one YouTube from another YouTube, and they're getting a lot of teaching, but they don't have the right feeling and emotion behind it, so it doesn't come across genuine or authentic. I want you to really spend time in studying the character and studying the psychology of it. And the reason I say that is because I've spent some time coaching some people of high level excellence. There was a cello player, and he came to me and he said, I said, why are you not going to play the cello any longer? And he says, because I've studied this master. I've watched them, and I've paid attention to them, and I realized one day when I was in my practice session that I would never be as good as them. And I thought to myself, that's the difference of emulating to a person to a point of just capturing enough that activates my individuality is different than copying someone to say, I'm going to be exactly like you. The goal is not to be exactly like them. The goal is not to be exactly like if you play guitar, Jimi Hendrix, or whoever you emulate. The goal is not to be exactly like them. The goal is to tag a hold of them, get a hold of them, tag onto them, and travel with them for a little bit until you see something that you could break off and say, this is where I'm going to be original. Don't just try to be original off the top, because you don't have enough of the fundamentals to be original just from the beginning. Spend some time copying, spend some time emulating, spend some time actually studying the masters. And when you do that, you can go, okay, that's where they're excellent, but I can actually see that if I add this and I allow some originality that's in me to be put on what they have, the skeleton work, I'm gonna, take that skeleton that everyone has, and I'm going to actually now put some framework that and some fat and some muscle on it that just like me, then that's going to change it. And it's going to be so different by the end of the day, because you have learned that you don't get there by yourself. And it doesn't mean you just have to go, hey, will you be my mentor? Hey, will you be my mentor? It's not about that. It's about getting around and surrounding yourself with enough study to where you learn the fundamentals and it takes your skill set. I wish I had a degree of how fast your skill set grows when you're trying to do it without copy, when you're trying to do it without emulation. When you're trying to do it without emulation, it is a slow, snail pace level, because you have to learn everything on your own for the first time. But I remember when I first started my art journey. My art journey started in kindergarten, elementary, where they gave me a picture. They said, pick the picture you want, okay, and then put over here this tracing paper. I just love tracing paper because I just could get so perfect. But can you imagine if I'd still paint by numbers and I still trace, doing tracing paper, and I never actually say, okay, put the picture over here and now let me develop my skill set here. Okay, take that from a two-dimensional surface to now let me see the scene to where I now have to negotiate what a 3-dimension looks like. Okay, take me away from that to now I'm going to imagine a scene in my mind and I'm going to work that. So those are the things that we need to know. We need to go from tracing paper, or maybe even earlier, painting by number, to tracing paper, to copying directly, and then from copying directly to trying to interpret what it would be like. And that's allowing your imagination to get a hold of something that is, and you're working with it, and then to literally creating on your own, being a creative, and being what we would call a genius. See, genius doesn't start just by saying, oh, I'm going to be a genius. Let me just think of something that's amazing. The Wright brothers are genius because they discovered the power of flight, but that didn't come from nothing. It came from watching, birds. It came from watching an eagle. Einstein didn't become a genius because he didn't ask questions based upon things that he could see. So you should be someone that says, genius is not just saying it comes from nowhere. Genius comes from watching, observing, calculating, evaluating, and then giving. What I want to give this last point to you. Hopefully I haven't been talking too fast, too much for you, but I want to encourage you. This next level is expectation. The only reason a person would copy you, or the only reason you would copy someone else, is because you have an expectation, a hope that you could be just as good or greater. And that's important that you get this, that this is all literally talking about the hope that's in you that says, I can be just as good as them or greater. And so that's what I'm going to emulate. I'm going to follow them as they're having success. And if I follow them as they're having success, by the way, there is a book called Followership that this cool guy, amazing dude, wrote. You can get it on Amazon, or you can go to my website, tracyarmstrong.com. That is a plug right there. That was a beautiful plug to slip right in. But you have to understand that there is a point where if you're going to go to your next level, you have to be an incredible follower. You have to say, I'm going to my next level. You learn this. And if I learn it from you, I don't have to take 20 years to learn it. I can learn from you in 5 days what it took you 20 years to learn, right? That's the power of speeding up your skill. So I find that people who are not growing are all about being original. People that are not growing, I find people, they don't expect that they can learn something from someone else. So they don't really have a life of hope. They don't come put themselves next to someone and go, I can be just as good as them. I'm not talking about comparison. I don't want to use that word. I want to use that word, emulate. They put themselves next to someone, and you have to evaluate and go, they're actually really good at that. They're good at parenting. They look at the success of their parenting. I'm not just going to go and have a bunch of teachers, meaning I'm not just going to go on YouTube. I'm not just going to read a bunch of books, a bunch of articles. If you know someone that has been successful in raising up children, don't just read a bunch of books of someone that you can't see their product. Go to that person, ask them some questions, and you'll grow faster than, again, I'm not saying don't read the book, because I have learned so much from book reading. But if you have someone that is right next door, your next door neighbor is a scientist and you want to be a scientist, what keeps you from knocking on their door? What is that? If I can't get to that scientist, of course, I'm downloading everything. I'm reading everything. But I'm also going to help. I'm also going to understand that there's a point where I have to step away from just holding on to them. I keep my eyes on them. I keep my understanding of what they're doing. If they're changing, I'm evaluating why they're changing, what's happening. But now I've excelled to a point of emulation, to the point where I can now create that own habits, that person's habits. I've allowed their habits to come into my life to where I emulate their success. We've been talking about habits. Go back and watch it. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about emulating someone's habits to the point of knowing and what success feels like. I talk to people often. I say, okay, tell me this. And I realize that they don't have perspective. Their perspectives are so out of proportion because they don't actually know what it takes to be successful, but they consider themselves successful. They don't know what it takes to even maintain the temporary or even perhaps success that they receive. they don't know how they got there. They don't know the price that it pays. They don't, and the price that it takes. They don't understand those things. So they lack perspective. Do you know what I think? When you got a hold of that, you go next door and you talk to the scientists, you figure out their habits, you figure out their perspective, you figure out their psychology, and that takes you to your next level. Hopefully this is encouraging. Hopefully this is helpful to you. And we're going to be back again next week and I'll probably, I think we're going to, I'm not going to tell you what we're going to talk about, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be both on Instagram and on Facebook. Please continue to join, share this with your friends. I don't know how it works completely on Instagram, but if you can share it, share it. If you can tag people, tell people to join. And when you come, just know that we're going to spend about 20 minutes together, and I'm going to build you up, encourage you in success. And I'm going to encourage you to be the best that you could be, because I know that there's a plan for you. Barry Buster update's going to be coming out soon at your, it's already, the update's already on Google. And we're working out some glitches that we encountered on the iPhone platform. So we're going to fix that. But there's the previous versions there, but I'm telling you, the new version is going to be so much better. So maybe a week, maybe even this weekend, we'll unroll it, and you will, maybe this week we'll unroll it and you'll be able to have that. So if you have any questions, on Facebook, or even in our communication here, on Instagram, let me know if you have some questions. I mean, this is free coaching, guys. Take advantage of it. It's amazing that the perspective of something, and I don't like giving it away free, but I know I like giving it away free, because the fact is hungry people will come, and that's who I want to talk to today. People who are, as I love the statement of Les Brown, those that are hungry. So you got to be hungry. If you're hungry for success, this is the place to be built up and strengthened, and give some real practical one-step things every single week, something that you're going to drill into and go to your next level. Don't forget, open up your Barrier Buster app every day. If you have to just open it and close it, do it for at least 30 days. Open it, close it, open it, close it. Don't even work on it. Just build the habit of discipline, of opening it and closing it every single day, and it will lock in. And one day your habit is going to be so locked in that you're going to move into your next level of success. We'll see. Hopefully this was a benefit. Hopefully this was encouraging, and take some time to copy, learn the trace. And you learn the trace, you'll learn the draw, and you learn the draw, you'll learn to create, and you'll see great things come in your life. All right, we'll talk to you soon.